Welcome back to another piece of solution class. And as last week, we are continuing in the building, not the building moral excellence, the moral excellence in the workplace, building teamwork through character development. So we're going over why it's important to have character education in the workplace. So last week, we finished the introduction to the program. And so we're going to go on to page K, how to use this program. All right. So you can see right off the bat how the piece of solution is different from other programs because there is a way to use this program because it says here, in order for you to have the full benefits of the piece of solution, you must incorporate it into your life. So let us begin. On page K, the first paragraph, it says, the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program introduces true moral values in relation to the workplace in simple, easy-to-follow lessons. Each lesson builds on the last in order to reinforce the main concepts taught. We recommend that they be used in order presented to get the full benefits. And I love the part where it says each lesson builds upon the last in order to reinforce the main concepts taught. So it doesn't just leave you hanging. You get 1 point and then that's the last thing you hear about that. And especially if you've been in the piece of solution classes, you know we constantly reference to other books because at the end they all tie together. They all are in unity, that they teach the same thing. All right, so it says create a work environment where staff can practice what they have learned through their interactions with others. Learn, practice, evaluate progress, and then succeed are the principles in which the program is based. And that ultimately reminded me in the character unit, and we mentioned this one in last class too, where it talks about value, imitate, practice. And it's all about a step-by-step basis. You don't learn something and then don't use it or you forget about it, but it's something you learn, you practice, and then you look back to see, okay, I have to change this, or I could have done this better. It's a continuously evaluating program. So paragraph 3, when teaching moral excellence in the workplace, be careful not to be too obvious about personal situations within specific work areas. No one likes to be singled out. And I also want to point out that no one needs to be reminded of their mess-ups. We are all human beings. We make mistakes. So it's important to show empathy and respect. Remember, going back to that emotional intelligence, knowing how to correct a situation, how to deal with being corrected in a situation as well. So, like I said, everyone makes mistakes, especially in the workplace. It's a place that is constantly changing and evolving, and we learn new things every day. Now, we learn from the mistakes we make and grow. But when a person makes another mistake, reminding them of their previous mistakes doesn't exactly help the individual. It's more of a discouragement than an encouragement at this point. And being either a supervisor or even a coworker in the workplace, reminding someone of their mess-ups doesn't help with work productivity or help that individual at all. So consider cultural and religious differences of individuals, or even different things that they've been through, their views that they have, because remember, this program is heavily weighed upon respect from no matter the skin color, where they come from, the language that they speak. Sometimes even language barriers can exist. When working together and issues arise, often everyone already knows someone messed up. So that re-emphasizes the point. You don't need to go to them and tell them, oh, you messed up, or explain to them why they messed up, or explain to them what you would have done instead. It's a learning process. Life is a learning process, and in the workplace, it is the same thing. At that time, no one needs the people reminding them of the mess up, but sincere, peaceful help in a way to fix the problem. So not only the individual can grow, but the company in the workplace can grow as well. When there are tense, conflictive situations, it may be the best to have a PSCEP solution character education program representative who is objective and has no other association with the company come to do an in-service training. When using someone who is an objective or someone who can see all sides of the situation before making a solution into what can solve this problem or things that you can evolve in making this program are necessary to make improvements in the workplace. You see a problem, you see a way to fix it, you learn from that mistake, and you implement the solutions that work and go forward from there. So we're going to jump down to purpose and objective. It says each lesson plan begins with a purpose and objective, a clear statement of goals to be met in order for the lesson to be successful. And if you've seen my classes before, if you've ever been in one of the classes that I had the opportunity to teach, when we cover the purpose and objective, I always ask, what's another word for purpose and objective? And it's goals. What you ask yourself, what are the goals in this lesson that I have to accomplish? So by the end of the lesson, I know what do I have to go back and learn? What do I have to reemphasize? Or what do I have to ask that I might not know much about? That is the purpose and objective. And a lot of people skip over the purpose and objective, but I think it's one of the most crucial parts of the lesson because it not only tells you what you will learn from this lesson, but it also reinforces what you've learned previously as well. So refer to the purpose and objective at the end of each lesson to ensure that you have accomplished the desired goal. And with us learning the PSCEP solution to be teachers of others as well, be prepared to bring additional info, especially if it's something within the workplace. Be educated, as the PSCEP solution says, to learn about the company, history of the company. You don't have to learn everything about the company, but know enough that you can bring examples so you can connect with the students. It's much better when you can connect to the students so they can take something from the class. Well, the teacher said this and I really connected with it because she gave this example and it really relates to my workplace because I do such and such. And it helps store it in their memory because, as we'll go over later on this page, as the teacher, you are the leader and the role model to them. And your example is their memory, what they will remember. So bring examples so they can remember this. So let's jump down to materials. Preparation and organization will help the lesson run smoothly and more efficiently. And I think we can say preparation and example will help anything run smoothly in life. Add your own creative presentation to fit your work environment. You know your work environment best, so utilize what will best stimulate the learning experience. Hands-on material can help students effectively retain what they have learned. Encourage participants to obtain their own manuals to reference and review the information that they have learned. And remember, with learning, people have different learning styles. Some people are hands-on. Some people, they listen better to learn and soak in information. Some people are both. So kind of gauge what different things your learning styles your class can be and try to incorporate all of these into it so they can take the most out of the class. So procedure. Read the entire lesson procedure and text prior to your presentation. Begin the lesson by motivating students towards the purpose, the goal of the lesson. Remember, going back to that purpose and objective. And by making them aware of the need for that goal. Ask questions periodically to be sure your students understand what is being presented. And that is an excellent point to highlight too, because learning the PSCEP solution, it's not a race. It's about obtaining the knowledge you can to go forward in the workplace to have productivity, peace, and safety. Basically, the list is endless as to what the PSCEP solution can add to the workplace, home, school, as we have learned. So it's definitely not a race to see which student can learn the fastest. It's to make sure that everyone can grasp the knowledge that is going on. Use stimulating materials such as role play, demonstrations, or news articles to enhance learning. And we do want to note with role plays, we don't want to, going back to singling anyone out. So probably don't use any personal examples that you might know about with the people in the work area, but try to choose neutral role plays that everyone can benefit from and not feel any way to being singled out or pointed out at. Activities. And yes, even though we are all adults in here in the workplace, we still need activities as well. The lessons also include activities which are designed to reinforce the purpose of the lesson, going back to reinforcing. All activities give students the opportunity to practice newly learned skills and to put these skills to work in a real life situation. It goes back to what they were talking about previously. We learn, we practice, and evaluate the progress, and then succeed with the principles which the program is based upon. They also make the learning experience more enjoyable. Frequently, scenarios are included in the text which can be used to creatively address areas of concern. Alright, so now it comes to the role of the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program teacher. So it's not just about the employees and the employer, but it's also about the teacher teaching the program as well. So when you choose to use the lessons provided in the Moral Excellence in the Workplace, you are on your way to becoming a PSCEP Solution educator. Educators of the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program play an important role in the lives of those they teach. Unlike many other subjects, they are taught in the workplace to improve morale, communication, motivation, or productivity. Character education affects all aspects of life. Participants can use these lessons to improve not only their work environment, but also their personal lives as well, showing how well-rounded the PSCEP solution is. It's not just for one specific area, but it's for all aspects of an individual's life. We can set the stage to help build strong moral character and positive decision-making skills by modeling and encouraging others to practice the main concepts in the lessons throughout the day. The PSCEP Solution Character Education Program Moral Excellence in the Workplace offers a solution to the problems in today's workplace environment and provides you with the necessary tools to make a difference by educating people today on the values and morals they will need for a lifetime. And I want you to remember this section of the book here as we go through, because the role of the PSCEP Solution teacher holds high importance. You know, this is what we have been training for since we started with the kindergarten series all up until now. And you can never underestimate, we say this every book, we could never underestimate the power of influences. We see how influences greatly shape our world, from social media to trends that are trending on social media to what people are wearing. Influences play a huge part in our life. And it's the same for a teacher as well. So be that positive moral teacher your students need, because like I said, your example is their memory. The things that you teach them, they will remember. I'm sure if we go around the room, we each have that one or two teachers that we remember from, maybe it's preschool, high school, that said something to us that stuck with us that we take throughout life today. And that teacher could have been a parent, a guardian, or a school teacher as well. So that's how important the role of the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program teacher is. You're not just teaching the program, but you're showing how it can work in their life as well by being what the program is. All right, so let us go over to, there is one part here that we wanted to quickly do as an overview of each chapter. And I know we did the overview last chapter, but we wanted to do a quick overview. So we have in chapter 1, Wanted, Workers with Positive Character. And then in this section here, we're going to learn right off the bat the difference or the definitions of character and personality. And I highly encourage you to highlight those when we get to it. Any definitions I would highly encourage you to highlight Even if we might have highlighted it in our previous books, it's always important. So chapter 2, we go into self-control. The essential ingredient to a successful work environment. And just think of it, just because a company makes more money does not mean they have more character than a company that doesn't. So chapter 3, mine, yours, and theirs. Ownership in the workplace. And you'll learn about how it is important to ask before borrowing a company tool or anything like that, and how respect all proportions of the company and individual possessions as well. And then chapter 4, ask, more than just a 3-letter word, and we'll really emphasize on how as taught in this chapter 5. Then chapter 6, we go into responsibility brings results. And that was an interesting title because everyone in a company wants results, but we show how responsibility plays a key part in that. And it goes to the example of, think of something you did today required someone else being responsible. That's a nice little brain twister, because something that you are required to do, but you are dependent on someone else to do their part in order for you to do yours. All right, and then chapter 7, we're going into honesty, a must in the workplace. And remember, in the Building Moral Excellence book, we talked about the company Enron. And they didn't use positive character in their decision making. And we saw from that article exactly what occurred with that company and all of its employees. And then chapter 8, management leads with character. Most management classes out there are psychology classes, or basically how to phrase a word for your employees to understand, or for you to get them to do something. The PSCEP solution does not work this way. It's a straightforward program that benefits the employer and the employee. These are not always bad things, but they are when positive character and moral rules are not applied. All right, so now we are going to get into the main part of our book here. And we're going to go to chapter 1, page 1. Wanted. Workers with positive character. And I don't think you really see that in the newspaper now. They mainly say wanted worker for this. But if you look closely, as it says in the first paragraph, the underlying point, they are wanting positive character as well. So it says, this is the overview of this chapter. It says, read the jobs wanted section of the classifieds. And yes, they do still have the jobs wanted section in the classifieds, which they publish both on paper and online these days. And you will notice that even before employers request positive character from prospective employees. Looking for responsible, caring workers, hard workers with positive work ethic needed are example of the ads you are likely to come across. Everyone works towards a positive work ethic, building a positive character, then the business should be successful. I would say will be successful, because with the PSCEP solution, no one can go wrong. Because with the things that it teaches, the moral excellence that it teaches, it benefits everyone. All right, and so for this chapter, we are also seeing how positive moral character can be applied in the workplace, and how it's relevant to the workplace and needed in the workplace. We are always going to have to work with people with different viewpoints, different walks of life, and varying in different degrees of character education as well, so we can strive for a more peaceful work environment. Now, these examples here are a practical application of how we can use this program. It breaks it down into a simple way that anyone could understand and implement it in their life. So in this chapter, you will learn that people with positive character, possessing traits like self-control, respect, honesty, are what makes a healthy, productive work environments and successful businesses. Character, this is where it gives the definition of character. Character is the combination of morals and beliefs that dictate how we treat others, our environment, and ourselves. So it includes everything. It is the means by which we distinguish between right and wrong. But as important character is, personality can easily obscure both a positive or negative character. Personality is the combination of personal preferences, qualities, attitudes, likes, and dislikes of an individual. Remember, we mentioned in the last class how you can be hired on personality but fired on character. And we'll see exactly why it says that further into the book. And when teaching these classes, remember that the people who you are teaching to do not know the PSCEP solution. And I remember in our PSCEP solution classes, one of my teachers says, if you think of the simplest words possible using the PSCEP solution, it doesn't have to be big, eloquent words. The simplest words, and you break it down to a point where you might think it's silly, but the person learning it might not think it's silly. So our personality is what we take on a job interview. And I'm sure many of us have either experienced a job interview or know what a job interview entails. Many people have trained on how to prepare for job interviews. They have job fairs, classes, online semesters people take to prepare to present their best foot forward on job interviews. And this is why it weighs heavily on personality as well. So it's really up to the employee to distinguish which traits they are looking for in an individual. So just think about it. What are some of the things that a person might want to put out when they are giving a job interview? How would they present themselves? According to most news articles or classes, they're going to want to be educated in what the job is about. Whether they learned it when on the way to the job interview itself, they're going to pick the right words to say. Make sure that they're on time for the appointment because it shows that they are punctual. Eye contact and active listening are important because it shows that they can listen to instructions. They want to smile a lot because it gives off a friendly manner to an individual. And sometimes you could even try to get the interviewer to talk about themselves. And this shows a lot about an individual based on a lot of the personality traits that we have in the character, this book here. And that's where it really is important to have character education, because while a person has a great personality, their work ethic character-wise might be lacking a little bit. And this is where the PSCEP solution comes in and fixes those little kinks that they might have to have a personality and a character that is matching for a work environment. All right, the warm smile and cordial greeting, the well-pressed suit and polished shoes say, "I'm here to impress." And these personable traits usually do impress. People want a person who is well-dressed, put together on their way to a work interview. However, the wise employer will look beyond what the eye can see, investigate the prospective employee's past work history, as well as personal and professional references. And that's where it goes on to where they mainly ask for 3 references that you might have, your past work experience, and also why most people check for credit scores, because these little things either show responsibility, consistency, or different things like that to show what a person could be like in this specific work area. So when we consider the harm that can come from mistaking a pleasant personality with a positive character, we can see the importance of learning to differentiate between the two for the betterment of and safety of our work environment. So just imagine an individual who is hiring based on more personality, where you have 2 individuals. One might have been more quiet than the other, and the other one more outgoing, connected with the interviewer, but they steal at work. Or the shy person who, honest, comes to work on time, does their responsibility. But because the other person presented more personality-wise, they were chose instead of the quiet one. And this isn't why it's important to have character education, because it shows that, yes, personality is important, but you must look beyond that as well to see how an individual does their work, that they don't steal, and a lot more other things to have a productive work ethic and a safe work environment as well. All right, so now we are getting into the core of the lesson. So we are going to turn over into page 3. So chapter 1, lesson plan, topic, wanted workers with positive character. So we go straight back to that purpose and objective. And as I like to do, every time I see the word purpose and objective, I write next to it, goals to be met at the end of this lesson, because that is what we are trying to achieve. And in this lesson, the students will learn what character and personality are. And this is first because it's very important to know the difference between the two. They will explore the differences between the two and how they are related to the workplace environment. And also, as it covered in the previous pages, not even just the work environment, but their home environment as well, and how to judge from the two. Materials are the student pre-assessment form, and then the tools are paper and pens and pencils. So we're going to jump down into the procedure. So procedure 1, introduce the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program, Moral Excellence in the Workplace. Explain that character education is a unique concept in the workplace. Guide class feedback by asking why it is important to learn about character. And that could be a nice topic opener because you get to find out, do your workers know about character? Do they know about personality, or what do they know about the two? Why is character important? Why it is important in the workplace? Take as many answers as time permits. Then explain to students that character education will teach them to recognize the difference between right and wrong behavior, improve employee decision-making skills, improve the quality of living by becoming the best individual can be, and motivating others to do the same. So it's not just a program for oneself, but it's a program for the person sitting next to you, the person who you might come in contact to when they open the door and they ask for a customer service representative. Create better interpersonal skills between employees and clients. Create a more unified team within the workplace, because at the end of the day, that is what every company, every worker, every supervisor wants in their program, to have a unified workplace where everyone understands, everyone feels safe in their environment, and they can work productively. So I want to end there, and then to continue on in procedure 1, I'm going to turn it over to our teacher 2.
Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you back to another class in the Workplace Manual of Moral Excellence in the Workplace. And before we continue with Procedure 1, I'd like to drop back to the overview, because there were some things in the overview that I found extremely important that I've learned from my own experiences. And the one thing is, we're training to become teachers for the peaceful solution. When you're going out and you're teaching workplaces and everything, you want to remember they've never had the peaceful solution from kindergarten on up. It started with the workplace. So this is going to be totally new to them. So you really want to go into depth, and you really want to help them to grab a hold of what it's all about. We all know what character means because we've been training for so many years, but they're not going to know what character is. And in interviews that I've conducted, and I've asked them, tell me about your character. Well, I'm HAPPY, happy, I'm nice, different things like that, but they're not describing their character. They're not saying, I don't steal, I don't do this. When I was in school in Florida, I went to the hospitality industry to learn the trade of hospitality. And we actually had a class that taught us how to actually go on an interview. Now, how many of you have ever been on an interview for a job? How did you feel? What was going on inside your stomach at the time? Did you have butterflies? Were your knees shaking? Were you not the knocking? I stuttered. And at one interview, I cried. So keep in mind, you don't know what you're going to be experiencing. But what they're looking for is that smile, as the first teacher said. They're looking for the well-dressed person. They're looking for the person that is outgoing and is friendly and everything. But many times, that's the person that ends up getting terminated because of their character. And that's what we have to keep in mind as we're teaching in the workplaces, so that they can understand the right questions to ask and how to dive deeper than just that surface appearance that's coming. Those are the things that we really want to keep in mind when we're teaching this course, to really drive it home to those that are hoping for something to make an improvement. Many times when somebody comes in to the workplace nowadays, they're in shorts, they're in jeans full of holes, T-shirts. Some of them just walk in and you think they just rolled out of bed, and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They don't care about their appearance. They're filling their quota. And this is how we have to learn to watch and pay attention to what's going on. Or you have the person that's coming in for the interview. Interview is set for 9 o'clock and they stroll in at 9:20. Do you really want that person on your team? These are the things that we look at. And they do call on references. And I want to share something when you're talking and teaching this. When someone's filling in an application, you have different jobs that you've done. One of the first things that we look at is how long were they at this place? How long were they at this place? If there's only 2 months here, 3 months here, 2 months there, and you're paying $100 to $125 a pop just to get them approved to be hired, think of the money that you're throwing away. So we want to keep in mind those things. But they could have a valid reason why they're doing that. They could only been able to been hired for temp reasons, and they only were able to work here 2 months, here 3 months, but it doesn't mean they're a bad person. But those are things that we want to cue the interviewer in when we're training in this program, so that they can look for the things that are important. Personality is a great asset when you have someone with an amazing personality, but that's not all there is. You've got to look at the character as well. So I really wanted to touch upon that because it's important. And I'd like to encourage you to actually write your own job ad. Think of a job that you'd like and write your own job ad. And really think about it through, because it's going to help you to know what you're looking for in a person. And it's going to help you to understand the difference between character and personality. But before you think about it, write it. Then go back and evaluate it as we go through this lesson. So continuing on, in Procedure 1, I want to touch upon a couple little things here too, because I'm taking what I've learned out there and I'm trying to apply it to the program to try to give a better, clearer understanding. And number A, it's a letter A, it says, explain to the students that character education will teach them to A, recognize the difference between right and wrong behavior. But one thing that you want to bring out when you're teaching it, if the team members or the employees see the managers on their phone all the time, watching videos, texting their friends, and all these different things, what message is being sent to the team members? That it's okay, even though the rule says leave your phone in the car. So we have to keep in mind that we're the examples. As teachers, you're the examples. But also as managers, you're the example, and you set the pace for how the team members or the employees are going to behave or act or conduct themselves. B, improve employee decision-making skills. Now, what does that mean? You have to explain to them we do this, we have a form for this, we have a form for this, and we have a form for this. Why? To make more work for them, to keep them busy, do that busy work? Most of the time, those forms are what we call a safety net. And that safety net prevents mistakes from taking place. Now, if in the hospitality business, you have a lot of people that will call down and say, hey, I need another pillow. I need an extra blanket. The next room calls and says, I don't have any washcloths. Are you going to remember them all? If you don't, write them down to follow through. Everything needs to be written down. Where I worked, there was a pad of paper at every single telephone, and that paper was there so that you could jot those notes down, because I can guarantee you there's going to be that phone call that interrupts your next thought. And we had logs where if a guest made a request, we'd write it down. And in 15 minutes, you had to go back and make sure that it was followed through, that it was taken care of, and that you were calling the guest and saying, did you get your needs met? This is what's meant with improved employee decision-making. Explain to them why they're doing these things. Explain to them why we leave the phones behind. Explain to them why it's important that when they take their breaks, it's the allotted amount of time. When they take their lunches, it's the allotted amount of time, because it all cuts in to the company's profit. And if they delay, then it's going to affect the next department and the next department. If they're not taking the sheets out of the rooms that are dirty and getting them down to the laundry on time, you're not going to have the laundry finished so that you can bring the sheets back up to the rooms and have clean sheets for the next guest. Everything that each department does has that ripple effect towards everything else. And as we're teaching this program, we have to help our students to understand that, because all too often they throw you in a position, they say, I want you to do this, 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 and this, and then they walk away. And you're not even explained why we do this, 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 and this. Much less you don't understand, what do I do if there's a kink in that first this, and it's going to affect the fourth one. So these are the things that we're looking at while we're studying this program. C, improve the quality of living by becoming the best each individual can be and motivating others to do the same. As managers and as supervisors, one of the things that we really want to teach others when we're teaching is how to be able to motivate, how to be able to encourage, how to point out a mistake, explain the correct way it's done, and move on. The fastest way that any manager or supervisor can discourage the people they have working under them is to keep throwing it up in their face. Keep saying, do you remember when you did that? These are the things that we want to keep in mind as we're teaching the course, so that we can help them to understand. They might not even realize that they do this. They might be totally oblivious to it, because I've seen it. And that's what we have to remember. You can also explain to them the negative effects that that kind of behavior has on them. It takes down morale. And when they see you doing this and you're saying, don't do as I do. How many of you had parents that said, don't do as I do as I say? But you couldn't understand why. If you can do this, why can't I? Well, if you have that in the workplace too, the employees are going to say, well, they do it. They don't really care. They just don't want me to enjoy my job. So we have to be those shining examples when we're in the workplace, and that's what we have to pass on to the students that are taking this course, so that they can help to make their place the place to work. D, create better interpersonal skills between employees and clients. Didn't say employees and employers, it said clients. Now, what is interpersonal skills? The word interpersonal, and I encourage you to write these definitions down. Interpersonal is relating to relationships or communication between people. Relating to relationships or communication between people. Now keep in mind, they haven't had the previous Peaceful Solution courses, so they don't know about active listening. They don't know about communication skills or anything like that. So we have to help them to develop that. And the other word or other definition is for the interpersonal skills. Now the definition for that is skills used by a person to interact in business. Skills used by a person to interact in business. It refers to an employee's ability to work with others. It refers to an employee's ability to work with others while getting the job done, and to create a more unified team in the workplace. And to create a more unified team in the workplace. Now, what's that saying? That's not saying that while you're working, you can't have a conversation with the person you're working with, but if that conversation stops the work, that's where the problem comes in. You can talk and keep work going. I shared my office with someone, and we're both working on our computers, but we're talking. So that's where we learn to multitask. If you want to talk, make sure you're working at the same time. Otherwise, what's really going on from the employer's point of view? You're getting paid to not do your job. That's what's really going on. So if you want to have that conversation, and this is what we have to help them to understand, if you don't mind your team members having that conversation, then teach them to do it in a way the work will still get done. Because then they're being productive, but the work is still getting accomplished. And when I read the definitions of these words, that's what helped me to understand and connect with what I have seen in the workplace. And then finally, E, create a more unified team within the workplace. Well, how do you do that? How do you create a more unified team within the workplace? One of the things that you want to teach the managers is get to know the people you work with, so that you can better understand what's going on. That's not saying be a busybody in their lives. That's saying if you see someone that comes in every day in a very up, chipper mood, and then there's one day they come in, they're downcast, their countenance has fallen. Why? There's got to be a reason. Everybody's life isn't perfect. Everybody has their struggles, and everybody has the things that they go through. And they can't just throw them out the window when they go to work. It's going to affect their job. One of the things that I practiced when I was in the workplace was when something major was going on in my life, I would make a special appointment with my two supervisors. And behind a closed door where I could talk to them, I'd tell them what was going on in my life. And I said, so if I stay to myself right now, I was still doing the work, but I wasn't bringing my downcast appearance into the workplace. I did the work, I kept to myself, but my bosses knew what was going on. And when it got really rough, then they would actually give you that safety net and say, why don't you just close your door and forget about the rest and we'll take care of it. But they know. So you're not working as strained as you could have been because you didn't know. So when you're teaching this course, teach them how to get to know those that they work with so that they can help them and yet still allow them to be productive at the same time. The main thing that you want to do is to get your students thinking. And the more that we know about the workplace that we're representing and teaching, the more we can gear them to think from the different aspects that they have experienced or that their company is suffering from. So let's continue on with procedure 2. At this point, it says pass out books as available or copies of the student pre-assessment form, and this is found on page 6. Ask students to take a few minutes to complete it. Allow an open discussion with students on their expectations of the class and how they think it will make a difference in the work environments. Now, this is really an important part of this course because it's going to help you to balance what they've learned. It's going to help you to see, are you connecting with them? It's going to help you to see if you've really driven home that point. And it helps the managers that you're teaching to see where their training level has been too. Because you can sit down and say, well, this, and this. They don't realize when they go and make copies for their own personal needs that they're stealing from the company. And different things like that. So let's turn over to page 6 really quick. I just want you to be familiar with this. On page 6, it says the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Student Assessment Form. And this is the pretest. This is before you start the class and all that. It says, please check the appropriate box for each statement to the best of your ability. Do not leave any statement blank. And I'm just going to read through them real quick just so that you have an idea of what this is all about. Number 1, there is a difference between character and personality. Many people don't know that. They think character and personality are one and the same thing. 2, my values are those which are important to me. 3, moral values are the foundation of a positive character. 4, I can improve my character. Now, I want to stop right there because a lot of times when people come into the workplace, they have a character, but they don't think that they can change it. They don't think that they can make a difference. And one of the things you can learn to drive home when you're teaching this is anybody can improve their character, including a 60-year-old person, including an 18-year-old person, and anybody in between. All you have to do is talk to them and explain to them the why, but you can't force it. You have to allow them time to digest it. Number 5, everyone has a right to ownership. And in the workplace, you can have your set of pens, your set of pencils and everything, but they don't know that. They don't realize that. And they just help themselves. 6, the work environment can influence my character. 7, thoughts lead to feelings, which lead to actions. 8, I can control my thoughts, feelings, and actions. Well, many times people don't know how until they've been taught. But you can teach, but if they don't want to follow that, they won't. 9, being consistently on time for work is a moral choice. 10, my belongings are safe in my work area. A lot of people think they are, but I've had over $100 stolen out of my purse from my work area. And these are the things that we have to try to help them turn around. 11, my work area is a friendly, comfortable place. 12, a combination of both moral character and skills make a positive manager. 13, a manager needs to know how to communicate effectively. If you can't communicate with those that you're teaching, you've already lost the battle. 14, developing moral character can have a positive effect in the workplace. Now let's go back to procedure 2 on page 3. As a teacher of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, and if you want, I'll read it slow if you want to write it down, but as a teacher of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, you want to be motivating and drive key points home. As you're teaching it, think about your workplace, think about your experiences, think about solutions that you've come up with, think about problems that you've dealt with. As a teacher of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, you want to be motivating and drive the key points home. You don't want your students to go home at the end of class empty-headed. You want to make that difference for them. You don't want your students to go home at the end of the class empty-headed. They are there for a job and will go home at the end of the day. They're not going to be there 24/7. They're there for a job and then they're going to go home. You want to make a difference. Positively influence them to see the benefits of this program. Remember at our last class, I said that someone told me that I should have just humiliated one of the managers in front of all the other managers, and my response back to them was, why would I want to do that if I wouldn't want it done to myself? That's working towards making a difference. And it's experiences that we go through that can help us to teach the program and help it to be real and alive to them. So I'll read it just one more time. It says, as a teacher of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, you want to be motivating and drive key points home. You don't want your students to go home at the end of class empty-headed. They are there for a job and will go home at the end of the day. Positively influence them to see the benefits of this program. So this is something to keep in mind and to help them to understand the great benefit in this program. Now let's move on to procedure 3. We have a little bit more time left. Tell students that in today's lesson, they will focus on what character is and how it is developed. Discuss the process of someone interviewing for a job position. We talked about that briefly when we started this portion of the class, and also the first teacher also touched upon it. Discuss the process of someone interviewing for a job position. Emphasize that first impressions are important, but to know whether the person has a sound moral character, an employer has to look further. You can't look at the surface, you have to look further and know what might come up in stressful situations. But when you do that, be prepared for them to say all the right answers. Because I've interviewed, part of my job description wasn't just the accounting side of where I worked. I also got to manage the swimming pool. And to me, that was probably the most challenging, most unwelcome. I don't know how many times I said, let's just fill it with cement. Let's get rid of it, because it was just one of the most troublesome because of the viewpoint of the guests that wanted to swim in a swimming pool that you had to shut down because some child had an accident in the pool and they couldn't understand why you needed 2 hours for the pool to purify itself again. So you have to deal with that. And so one of the main questions when I was interviewing was, how do you handle stress? Oh, I do a great job with it, no problem. Next thing I know, they're telling the guests to, well, I won't say what they were telling the guests, but they didn't have the job any longer either. So you have to be able to handle stressful situations no matter what's going on. And sometimes the best thing to do is to take a deep breath, say, excuse me for a minute, and then get help. And if we can teach them through the Peaceful Solution how to take that step back, take that breath, so that You're not going off on the person that's actually writing your paycheck. Yes, it's the company that writes the paycheck, but if they're not staying at the hotel to bring that money in, there's no paycheck. So we have to take into consideration the entire picture. Explore how the employer or the supervisor often checks personal and professional references and work history to determine a person's character. And then we're going to read this next advertisement. It's a sample, but it says, read the sample job advertisement for employment. It says, wanted. We need responsible, caring people to work with the elderly. Only apply if you have flexible work hours and a safe driving record. You must also be willing to work under stress, showing patience and compassion. Only people with these qualities need to apply. Anyone walking through the door have these qualities in their minds. So you have, as an employer, have to step one step forward and ask questions that will help to reveal that person's character. But in the same sense, get them to relax, because that's when part of that character is going to come out. And I know that sounds horrible, but when people get comfortable, that's when they're more willing to talk, and that defense line goes down and more of that character shows forth. I have caught people in lies where they contradicted themselves at that point, and there's several other different instances. So that's what we have to help the ones that we're teaching to know how to do. It says, have students identify character traits the employer is looking for. Stress that character plays an important role in hiring and firing from a company. And that's something that we really want to remember. This workplace manual is extremely important, and it can help us not only in training others to make their workplace a better place, it can also help us in our interactions every day in the jobs that we do. And when we find ways that we can actually get someone to see what we're saying without belittling, humiliating, insulting, degrading them, then we've taken a big step forward. I want to thank you for your attention this evening, and I look forward to